Hello to all of our spectacular Legit KidLit viewers. I'm Tiffany.
And I'm Alexis, and we're your hosts of Legit KidLit. We are excited to welcome two awesome KidLit authors and former teachers, shout out to teachers, Darlene Beck Jacobson and Nancy Viau. Viau.
Good job.
Sorry. It's so fun seeing you sitting together. How do you two know each other? And tell us about your book.
I'm going to let Darlene do the how we met each other because I don't remember.
How we met each other way back about 10 years ago at the New Jersey SCBWI, which is the Society for Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. They had a conference, and Nancy was one of the presenters, and I had gotten her book and asked her to sign it for me. And her presentation was in a classroom with other authors, and they were talking about the KidLit Authors Club, how they all supported each other. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I said, I would hope one day that I would have a book and I'd be able to be part of something so wonderful. And here we are.
Yeah. So I met Darlene then. I told her I didn't really remember, but then I do have this club sort of where we just all together support each other called the KidLit Authors Club. And then when Darlene's book came out, I remembered her and invited her to be part of the group. So that's how we met and then learned we lived really close to each other.
There aren't a whole lot of us down here in South Jersey as far as authors go. Most of them are up in North Jersey for the Jersey authors. So it's fun to have that connection also.
We love KidLit friendships like that. That's really cool. So tell us about your books.
All right. Well, I have a bunch of books, but I guess the one that is most interesting to you guys right now is the middle grade and the latest picture book. So this was a book that came out a long time ago and was reissued. It's called Samantha Hansen Has Rocks on Her Head, about a 10-year-old who just loves science and geology and digging in the dirt. She kind of has a big temper and is loud and boisterous, and her goal is to get to the Grand Canyon. When that was reissued with the new cover, they wanted the next one, which is Something is Bugging Samantha Hansen. And here's where in fourth grade, which is what I used to teach, she starts to learn about insects. And she finds out the bees are in trouble, and she uses her loud voice and her knowledge to enlist the help of an entire community to save the bees, because we know those bees are important. And then I also want to give a shout out to Pruitt and Sue, my latest picture book. It seems that in the last few years, my focus has turned primarily to picture books, because I love the surprise you get when, the writer does just the words, and then this fabulous illustrator like Jorge Lacera puts it together, and it's just a wonderful surprise. And this is generally about Pruitt, who is not an alien, he's a being, because it's his own planet. Very boring planet. Lots of rules, black and white and gray, and he obeys those rules most of the time. Sometimes he gets a little carried away. And then Sue comes along, and she helps him see that perhaps there's a different way to look at things. Perhaps some of those rules could be changed. And then we'll talk more about that when we talk about, changes and some of the themes that we wanted to talk about today. Let's go to Darlene.
My first book that came out was called Wheels of Change, and it's historical fiction. Takes place in 1908 Washington, D.C., and it came about when I was researching my family tree and discovered that my grandmother, who lived in Washington, D.C., had a dad who was a carriage maker in Washington, D.C., and I thought, carriage maker at the turn of the century. Here's a picture of grandma. What would happen if a girl who was 12 years old at that time, who didn't want to be a proper lady, grew up with a dad who was a carriage maker and decided that she wanted to become a blacksmith when she grew up? So I thought that there's a conflict right there already, because girls had to obey proper rules of etiquette. And my grandmother also got an invitation to the White House and met Theodore Roosevelt. So Theodore Roosevelt is actually a character in the book, because when changes come along that threaten Papa's business, Emily has to decide, is this a good change? Is it not a good change? And maybe I'm going to need help getting things going so that Dad can keep his business in this time of change. And my current most recent book is Wishes, Dares, and How to Stand Up to a Bully, about a boy whose dad is MIA in Vietnam. He misses him terribly. He doesn't want to spend his summer with his grandparents, but mom insists that he and Katie do that. He makes the best of it, goes out to wander around and see if he could find something to do, and meets a girl named Jill, whose brother is a bully. So the two of them find ways to hang out and try to avoid spending time with Toby, the bully, and Cody the bully, and they go to a pond and catch a fish who grants wishes. And they realize that every time they make a wish, something unintended happens. So you have to be careful what you wish for.
Oh my gosh, I feel like we could spend hours on all of those books. They all sound absolutely amazing. So, sidebar, Nancy, is it true that you wrote and illustrated your first picture book at the age of 6, but then didn't return to writing until you were, or 35 years later?
So many years. I know. I tell this to kids in school, and they have no concept of time. But when they hear 35 years, I mean, these are kids that say things like, "You were alive in the 90s." It's so funny. But yeah, so I thought I was going to be an author and an illustrator, and I created this book, Shaggy the Dog, and I unfortunately don't have the real book, didn't save it. Made 10 copies, threw it in my radio flyer wagon, went around the block, sold it for 10 cents a copy, and it sold. I was like best-selling author of the neighborhood. Went home and I created a second edition. Wasn't as great, it was a little bit messy. Handwriting was neat, 10 cents a copy, threw it in my wagon, other side of the neighborhood, sold. Came home to my mom and I said, this writing thing, it's so easy. It's like, first of all, I'm famous, so I don't need to do this anymore. And I'm rich, I have $2. So I quit and I didn't think about it for years. I had other careers. I mean, I aced all my writing projects in college, took my creative sort of mind into teaching, and I didn't think about it until my youngest ran off to preschool. And I started writing little rhymes for highlights and things like that. And then I guess I caught the whole writing bug. But yeah, it was a lot of years in between.
That sounds like a familiar story.
That could be a picture book.
It could, I guess.
The little writer that could. Yes.
But I don't want to discourage. Like I tell kids, I said, if you feel like a passion for something right now, don't quit. Keep trying at it and keep trying at it. I just threw up my hands and said, this is too easy. And things worthwhile are not always easy. So that's kind of the message I tell them in my school visits.
So Darlene, is it true that you wrote letters to pop stars when you were younger and they would often send pictures back to you?
I did. Back when I was a little girl, way back in ancient history, it was writing letters was the form of communication because we only had one phone and that was for emergencies. You don't call your friends on the phone. You don't call anybody on the phone. So we wrote letters and I had pen pals. But I also was enamored with what was on television and the Mouseketeers. I wrote to Annette Funicello. She sent me an autograph. Of course, somebody signed it. She didn't. An autograph picture. And Frankie Avalon, who was a pop singer at the time. I got a picture of him. Richard Chamberlain, who was Dr. Kildare, and everybody thought he was a hunk. He sent me an autograph picture. Well, that kind of encouraged me. I said, if I write letters, real cool things happen. So I've been a letter writer to this day. I still prefer when I start my drafts, I get my pen out, my paper out, and I start them in a rough copy and do that before I take it to the computer to do editing. But writing has always been something that's been comfortable and been fun for me. And I've gotten enough positive reinforcement that it's been a positive thing. So it's kept on all these years.
Those are such cool stories. We know you both wrote books that have characters affecting change, and we'd love to hear you talk a little bit about this and some of the very important topics in your books that you'd like to share with our readers.
Okay.
Well, obviously, the title in this one is Wheels of Change, and I mentioned a little bit about the change. It's the second wave of the Industrial Revolution when things are starting to be mechanized. Papa's barn is a place where he makes carriages by hand. and they're high-end carriages. And President Roosevelt even orders one for his personal use to because he loves horses and he just appreciates something well made. Well, as Papa's working on things like this, the Henry Ford has become a very popular and interesting persona because he's producing cars that are economical and affordable by the masses. And this one of these cars happens to drive past Emily's house while she's outside in the yard, and she's saying, what are we going to do if Papa's business is gone and all these changes are taking place? How will he survive? And also Papa employs an African-American blacksmith in a city that's still segregated. Even though it's the nation's capital, there was still segregation in that city. So that's another change Emily would like to see change. A change she wants to see, a positive change. And her teacher is demonstrating for the right for women to vote. So there's all kinds of things on the horizon that are happening that are causing change. In Wishes, Dares, and How to Stand Up for a Bully, the change is drastic in terms of Jack's experience because he's missing his father, who is, they don't know where he is, MIA in Vietnam, and they haven't heard from him in months. And Jack doesn't know what to do with himself. He's beside himself because he misses his dad. And things are so strange at his grandma's and grandpa's house for the summer. Even though he loves his grandparents, he doesn't want to be there. Having to adjust to that emptiness of not having his dad is a big change. And then the change of how he relates to his mom, how he relates to his sister, and how he relates to a new friend and her bully brother is causing all kinds of things to happen in the summer that he never thought he would have.
All right, so I'll start with the middle grade one. It seems like all my books have something about change in, because I think in order to write a character and a good character, they do have to have conflict and they have to go through some changes.
Absolutely.
But in this one, something is bugging Samantha Hansen. She becomes an environmental activist. So I feel like this whole thing about where kids can be involved in their community and they can be active in making changes in their community. And you know, she's just one little 10-year-old. She's quite loud and she's a little obnoxious and she gets into trouble sometimes, but she decides to take the fact that her local bee farm is for sale and is very upset about it, primarily because she was supposed to have a school visit there and now they don't have anywhere to go. Then she learns that the bees are in trouble and she really needs to save them. It was fun learning about the bees and how we have to be thankful for every third bite we eat, you know, because of the bee. And Sam learns these things in school, but then she really takes it to heart and she takes it to her community. And she starts a bug club to save these bees, and she, you know, gets all her friends involved and things. And you know, the book is, I would say, great for even a second grade reader who could learn some things about just insects in general, because there are some funny lists in there. There's also crazy lists like why she wants to trade her sister for a tarantula and, you know, things like that. But it is all about how one person, a little girl, can make a change, become an environmental activist. This one, I don't know, this one, I still to this day can't remember how I got the idea for this, except I was thinking I wanted two different characters, as different as they could possibly be. So I thought, well, maybe they should be from two different planets. So you have Pruitt, and he is from Monochrome, which is a planet that is very dull. Everything's in black and white and gray. I mean, he's okay with this. There's rules like you have to use that color crayon and you can't ever zigzag. You have to walk in straight lines. And I mean, Pruitt is okay with those rules, and he obeys those rules most of the time. Even in school, he's one of those good kids. And then this character Sue comes in, and she's like, why can't we ask questions? Why can't we answer questions? How are we going to figure out what makes us special? And all of a sudden, Pruitt is like, oh, well, you know, I'm a rule follower. My teacher says I can't ask questions, can't answer them. And the story goes on and on and on and on. And all of a sudden, he realizes Sue in her exuberance is not making too many changes in the school here or anything, and nobody's really talking to her. And she's beginning to get very sad. She's starting to lose her color. And that upsets Pruitt because the story is not only about change, it's about being a good friend, being a good supporter of your friends. So he finally gets brave enough to ask some questions. You can see what starts happening to him. He becomes brilliant. And pretty soon the whole classroom catches on about how fun it is to get to know each other and to be active and, just affect change and do great things. There's, it's not easy at first, but eventually the whole planet catches on that this is a good idea. Perhaps you can stand out. Perhaps you can still blend in. Doesn't matter. Just be who you are. And it is about just affecting change. Again, one person decides to do something to make a change that affects everybody. And I love that theme. I think kids need to hear that. I think there's things in their world right now that they're confused about or that they want to help and they think they're just one small child and that they can't make a change. But those little changes that they do,
Exactly.
It's gonna help.
Instead of seeing change as this big thing that's impossible to, they take one part and they say, how will this change make a difference in my life and the life of my family and my friends?
Yeah.
I love books that have kids being activists. It's become my favorite thing. A nice little surprise when I'm reading a book and I'm like, oh, they're doing something. They're being the change. I love it. Love it.
A teachable
So,
moment.
And while her changes are very active and in modern times, even in historical fiction, you can be a change maker, but it's on a more quiet level, but it still has an impact and it's powerful in its own way.
And before I forget, and I think Darlene has this as well, we have guides free to download from our website.
Curriculum
Everything
guides.
from ELA to math. In the Samantha Hansen ones, she has trouble with math. So many teachable moments in there. Pruitt and Sue, I think there are 5 packets of guides in Pruitt Sue. Everything from making headbands to social studies to science.
Right.
The Samantha Hansen ones, this Nature Maid's bees business gave me all their guides to post on my site with just complete things that you can take right into the classroom and use right away, which is so great.
For this one, I have everything from etiquette lessons to the roles of boys and girls in toys that kids played with back in 1908, and vocabulary, the core content questions, and curriculum guides. And this one's got curriculum guides and lessons on bullying, lessons on how to write free verse, and study questions as well. So vocabulary.
Because we were teachers, so we're going to do this, right?
Oh, I love it. I love it.
Word search puzzles, all kinds of good stuff.
Ah, sold on word searches.
Me too.
And so do you also do school visits?
Absolutely.
I do primarily K to 6. I also do pre-K story time because I have the books for the little guys that are just, rhymers and seasonal or just fun and short. Everything from pre-K story time to 6th grade with the middle grade. Other middle grades, these are 2 other ones. So it's kind of fun because I can reach a broad range, and Darlene does them as well.
Right, but since I don't have picture books, it's a little more of a challenge. So I usually stick with 3rd through 7th, maybe 7th grade. And although I did a workshop with high school kids on how to write free verse based on my experiences with Wishes and Dares, but the core content for my books is maybe 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade right in there. So.
Great. And we will have your info listed below in the description so people can reach out to you.
Wonderful.
ASAP. So we're nearing the end of our episode, sadly. But
that was quick.
So I know. We always have so much fun. We're excited to quickly introduce you to a little game that we created called Choose Your Own Adventure, Author.
I love this.
And you're wondering how you'll play. You'll take turns and each choose a topic from our wall of topics. And Alexis and I will read to you a question or challenge that corresponds with the topic that you choose. And I know you saw some of the topics before. So
Yes.
go ahead, and we'll do probably 2 apiece to a person.
Okay.
And Nancy, we'll have you start.
Me?
Nancy, yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to start with hiring now.
Hiring now. Okay. So if you could hire out one household chore, which one would it be?
So it would be taking that Swiffer around and like just doing all my corners and Swiffering. And I actually have an applicant for this job. It's my 15-month-old grandson who just loves to Swiffer. So I would like to hire him, and he just like walks around and Swiffers for me. So I'm sorry, but that job's already full.
That is adorable. Okay. Darlene?
I would like spice it up.
Spice it up. If you could keep only one seasoning at your house, which one would it be?
It would be onion powder. I sprinkle it on my homemade guacamole. I put it on fish. I put it on chicken breast. I mix it in with my tuna casserole. I would take it with me everywhere I go.
All right.
Onion powder.
Go back.
It's really good in guacamole. Instead of chopping up the onions, which takes time, just put the onion powder in there. It's great.
And for those of us that don't like the chunks of onions, I don't like the chunks, so I would definitely go.
Yes, and you get the same flavor. Yeah.
All right, back to Nancy.
I'm going to do priority.
Okay. Using one word, tell us what you need right now.
Son, one word. I need an attendant.
Okay.
Should I explain it?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I need like a sunscreen attendant that follows me around with sunscreen that I always forget to put on. I need a travel attendant who's going to follow me around when I travel and say, don't forget your passport. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. So I need an attendant. It's just like a shadow.
A Girl Friday.
I need a shadow. Yeah.
A Girl Friday only 7 days a week.
All right, Darlene.
I'm a sound match.
Sound match. All right. So listen to the sound, and we're gonna make a noise, and then you're gonna try and make that sound with your mouth. All right.
Ooh. I've been known to make all kinds of weird noises and sounds, so I thought this might be a challenge.
All right. All right. Can you hear this? That was good.
It probably would have sounded a lot better if I had false teeth, but
it's like a new TikTok thing. Like people actually make sounds and then they have to make the sounds with their mouth. It's hilarious. It's
oh
Right.
my goodness.
It's like beatboxing almost.
Who knew all the annoying things we did in our daily lives would become entertainment, right? Who
exactly.
knew?
Well, we've had such a great time with you both. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. And viewers, please remember to check out Darlene and Nancy's websites listed in the description below. And then you'll see all kinds of awesome resources, curriculum guides, activities, and definitely reach out to them for school visits. And to all of our readers, we hope you enjoyed our show today and are inspired to pick up their amazing books.
Thank you so much for having us. This was
This
wonderful.
was so fun, especially with my friend here
It was
next to me.
great.
It was delightful.
We really enjoyed it.
Yay.
Great to see you, Alexis and Tiffany. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. You two are such a joy to see together. We'll be back next Sunday with more KidLit fun. I'm Alexis.
And I'm Tiffany, and we are signing out.